Hey, I'm Austin with Training Tall. Welcome back to another video and another tier list video. These are so much fun to make, and today we're going to be making a tier list for basically the best exercises for rowing. If you're using rowing as a primary form of your fitness training, what exercises should you do to improve your rowing and to help balance out the overall routine? So I've got about 28 different exercises here that we're just gonna rank through into our 4 different categories. Do these, which is the top tier, good but not great, and variations that aren't ideal, because lots of exercises have different variations to them, and then the don't bother exercises. Exercises that really aren't gonna have any impact on your rowing performance or help you balance out your overall fitness routine for the most part. Obviously, it's gonna be different depending on your specific goals, but in general, this should give you a good idea of what exercises to include with your rowing program. So let's get right into it. We'll start off with just gonna grab these one at a time. So first exercise here is the leg press. I would put this in the do these category. The leg press is one of the best ways to strengthen your legs in a way that supports your spine and allows you to put all of the effort literally just into your leg drive to get a super strong leg drive, which is a primary driver of the rowing stroke. There's really no better way to build raw quad pressing power than the leg press. Now, obviously you need access to a gym for a leg press in most scenarios. Most people don't have these at home. So it's in the lower end of the do these because it's not essential, but it is still a good leg drive building exercise. Next up, we've got the body weight squat. I would also put these in the do these category, especially because of how accessible it is as an exercise. Whether you're doing them body weight or with a dumbbell or with a barbell, I mean, developing squat power, not only is that strengthening your quads, but also your glutes as well, which are the primary drivers of the rowing stroke. I mean, the first part of a rowing stroke is like a squat or a leg press. And so it's pretty plain and simple why these both go up here. All right, now next, just in the random listings of these exercises, I have reverse curls. So reverse curls are when you curl the dumbbells up like this rather than a normal biceps curl where your palms would face you. So reverse curls help you work more of your forearm muscles, and I would put these in the don't bother category because overactive forearms are something that we want to avoid with rowing, and that's a very common thing, especially for beginners, is that you start to feel your forearms burning and your forearms being used. We want to avoid that, and while if you're looking for overall arm strength, it's a great exercise to develop the lower arm specifically, not necessarily great for rowing. Next up, we've got the chest press machine, like a Smith chest press. I would put this exercise in the variations that aren't ideal. Now, the reason why it's going there is because chest exercises directly complement, or they complement as in their opposite. Does that make sense? As in, the rowing stroke doesn't work any chest. Like, you are not, like, out of the 85% of muscles that rowing works, chest is not one of them. And your chest is a huge muscle group that's not getting any exercise at all from the rowing stroke. And so balancing out your overall physique with a chest exercise is important. But with a Smith chest press, this is basically isolating your chest and taking away from additional work we could be getting along with the chest, because it is sort of an accessory exercise to rowing, where ideally there's better options to work the chest than the chest press. So I would avoid this. If you were to choose a chest exercise, I'd stick away from the Smith chest press. Now let's get into dips here. This is, dips are interesting. This is I wish there was an in-between category. I guess I made this, I could have made one. But I would put dips in the in-between of the good, not great, and the variations that aren't ideal. I think I'm gonna put it above into the good, not great, just because dips are such a challenging exercise as far as like a bang for your buck chest move. You're also working the back sides of your arms too, the triceps, and overall a lot more challenging than an exercise like push-ups, which gives more people the ability to scale the exercise and build up the progression more instead of just doing endless and endless amounts of push-ups. So actually, I feel pretty confident with it being in that category. And again, this chest-focused exercise is gonna help you balance out everything you're doing with your rowing. So next up, we've got, the picture's kind of cut off, it's in landscape mode, but we've essentially got reverse lunges. I would put these also in good, not great, or forward lunges, either way. Once again, a great exercise that's gonna primarily strengthen your quadriceps and your glutes. I know that the hamstrings are highlighted here, but the hamstrings they're not getting direct work, but you are getting a lot of booty and quads, which are, of course, awesome for building up rowing stroke power. As far as lunges go, you know, they take a lot more time to do. Again, bang for your buck mindset, squats are gonna be a better option than lunges because you're working both legs at the same time, very similar to what you would be doing with a rowing stroke, while lunges do have the ability to work one leg at a time to help you correct imbalances, which might be helpful for some people. So still a good exercise though, and they always suck. They're always hard to do, which that's how you know they're good for you. All right, next up, we have got overhead presses. I know this photo is kind of cut off, but I'm gonna put overhead pressing into the don't bother category. It's not gonna have a very strong effect on your rowing, and it's not gonna really be balancing things out primarily because you're primarily working your shoulders. Even though the chest is highlighted here, you're getting some upper chest, but it's not a full chest exercise at all. It is primarily a shoulders exercise, and our shoulders are one of the things that we want to try to avoid over-activating in the rowing stroke. While shoulder presses might give you a more aesthetic physique, if that's one of your goals, then maybe you should bother. But as far as balancing out rowing, improving rowing, it's a don't bother exercise. Next up, we've got the deadlift, the barbell deadlift. Can you guess which category this goes into? This goes into the do these, and this is a top tier do these exercise, if not the best exercise you could do for rowing. And that is because it implements the two biggest components of the rowing stroke, the leg drive and then the body swing, or the hip extension. That's essentially what a deadlift is. The start of a deadlift is driving your legs into the ground and then extending your hips forward. So you're working your quadriceps, your glutes, and your hamstrings, all of which are gonna power your rowing stroke. If there was one exercise to do to get better at rowing performance, it's getting strong at the deadlift. So that is a no-brainer. Next up, we have the barbell hip thrust, or dumbbell hip thrust, body weight. I would put this into a good, not great, because with the bang for your buck mentality, deadlifts are gonna be better while working the same muscles and your quads. With the hip thrust, we're strengthening our glutes, which is gonna really help with the power from the body swing, and the body swing is where peak power is generated in the rowing stroke. So it's still a good exercise to do. There are just other types of exercises where we can work the same muscles in more of the rowing stroke way. The hip thrust motion isn't necessarily like a rowing specific motion compared to the hip extension of a deadlift, if that makes sense. So that's gonna go into good, but not great. And next up, we've got the dumbbell shrugs. All these photos, all the heads are chopped off. Shrugs are in a don't bother exercise category. Shrugs are gonna help you develop your traps, your upper back, all of which is gonna play very little as far as improving your rowing performance. Your back is gonna be getting plenty of work from rowing as it is. And if anything, shrugs are just going to make you focus more on shrugging up as you pull on the handle, which is what we want to avoid with rowing. So I wouldn't bother with shrugs. When we think of just like functional training in general, or if you're going for like a bodybuilding look, doing shrugs or farmer carries, exercises like that, they're great for developing overall body strength, but not really good for rowing specificity. All right, next up, we've got the dumbbell bench chest press. This is going to be a good, not great. That's what I'm gonna put into, that's what I'm gonna put this exercise into, because it's better than the Smith supported chest press machine. And that's because you have to focus a lot more on kind of keeping your whole body stable, a lot more of a focus on total body core stability as you press up. And with the dumbbells, that creates even more instability, working both arms at the same time, even though it's one weight in each hand. Gonna be a great way to help you strengthen your chest, which helps you balance out all the muscles you work with rowing. So great exercise to do, and very easily scalable too. You just start lifting heavier and heavier and heavier with it. Next up, we have the kettlebell swing. This is going to be, in my opinion, I was thinking variations that aren't ideal, but, or do these in between, like those two are good, not great. I'm gonna go with, I don't personally do a lot of kettlebell swings. However, if you're someone who is looking to maximize your power in rowing, like power, like quickness, it would be in a do these category, because the explosiveness you get from the hip extension of a kettlebell swing, you can't beat that. And hip extension for short sprint rows, that's like all short sprint rowing is. You hardly use your legs at all. It's all body swing. And so in that case, it would be in a do these category. But if you're looking for just overall endurance with your rowing, I'd put it in the good, not great, or variations that aren't ideal. I think you'd get a lot more benefit from building up strength in your deadlift. So you know what? I'm just gonna keep it though in the good, not great category for now. Our Smith chest press is looking a little lonely though in variations that aren't ideal. So let's get into it now we've got lat pull downs, the lat pull down exercise. There's our next exercise into the variations that aren't ideal. And that's because while a lat pull down works the vertical pulling motion, which is awesome to complement because of rowing being such a horizontal pull, strengthening yourself in a vertical pull is a great way to balance things out. However, with the lat pull down machine, you've got your legs locked. We're taking out all of the core stability of managing your own body weight compared to something like a pull-up, and pull-ups would be a better option. And we will get to those within the list. And that is why the lat pull down goes into the variations that aren't ideal. Still viable, but not ideal. Next up, we've got the lateral lunge. This is gonna go into a good, not great exercise category because the lateral lunge helps you strengthen a lot of your inner thighs, which being able to gain strength and mobility through the inner thighs is really good, especially for people that have trouble keeping their legs together when you take a rowing stroke. If you find your knees are constantly bowing out, or you feel like you can't compress and lean your body in enough, a lot of that has to do with inner thigh flexibility, and that tends to be one of the tightest muscle groups, especially on men. So this is a really good exercise to help you not only gain strength in your legs, but also gain strength and mobility through your inner thighs as well. So it's a good exercise to include for sure. Next up is lateral raises. This is a don't bother exercise. Again, the aesthetics king of building up big, bulky, wide shoulders does absolutely nothing for rowing. It really does nothing. It's not even gonna really balance out your shoulders because your shoulders are being worked somewhat with rowing anyway. You're gonna work your shoulders through a chest press exercise. They're totally not necessary unless you're looking for more of an aesthetics look, in which case you should definitely be doing them. All right, next up, we've got the snatch squat. So, or the overhead snatch. I think it missed the first part of it, but basically barbell snatch. This is a variation that I would say is not ideal. While it is a crazy good exercise overall, for most people, and this is coming from someone who is, you know, with rowing, a lot of people that get into rowing for the first time are beginners to fitness. Doing a snatch is not the ideal exercise, as far as a lot of people even lacking the mobility to get their arms straight and behind their head, something of course you can work up to. This is definitely not an exercise that you would want to be jumping straight into as a beginner, someone who's just getting into rowing. And while you do build up the strength through your leg drive and the hip extension, kind of like a deadlift as well, again, it's just more of there's a lot more risk to reward compared to other exercises. So that's gonna be squeezed into the variations that aren't ideal. Oh, and look at that. Next up, we've got ourselves the power clean. So this is the power clean without the squat. I would say that this goes into the variations that aren't ideal as well. And that's because the power clean with the full squat as well is gonna be a better variation. But we can see here, I know you probably have to squint because these pictures are tiny, but with the clean as an exercise, working on leg drive and hip extension, primary movers of the rowing stroke. Awesome exercise. There's a better one though, and that's gonna be the clean with the squat. And I'm gonna say that these are a do these exercise if you can learn the form. So maybe a good, not great. It's gonna have to bounce between the two because I think it's an exercise worth learning. And when you look at a lot of the professional rowers out there too, the clean with the full squat is a staple exercise in strength and power building programs. I really think it's an exercise worth learning. Obviously start off light so you can work on the form, but it works on the main movers of the rowing stroke in a really strong, powerful, and very scalable way. Alrighty, next up we've got push-ups. Do these. Do push-ups. Accessible for everyone, scalable as far as regression goes, all the way to knees on the ground and hands on a bench or a chair. I don't recommend wall push-ups, but counter push-ups, knee push-ups, full push-ups, incline push-ups. There's a lot of scalability and range. And while it is limited with how intense you can make it, it's still just such an accessible exercise that helps you balance out your rowing by building up your chest, your triceps, your shoulders. It's a do these exercise for sure. Next up, we have got the RDL, the Romanian deadlifts. I'm gonna say that this is a good, not great, or variations that aren't ideal, maybe between those two. And that's because as far as more of a hamstrings isolation and a hip extension isolation compared to the traditional deadlift. The difference is the traditional deadlift, which starts on the ground with the bar on the ground. The RDL does not start with the bar on the ground, and the bar never touches the ground. So it's much more of just a hamstring stretch in a hip extension, squeezing your butt forward, which is a primary mover of the rowing stroke. You're gonna make great rowing power gains from doing so. It's a good exercise, but if you're weighing out that or the conventional deadlift is the way to go, in my opinion. Alrighty, next up we've got just the standard biceps curl. I would say that this is another don't bother exercise. There's really no need to strengthen up your biceps for rowing. Your biceps are gonna be worked as you pull in the handle. Obviously not in a way that's gonna make your arms freaking massive and huge, but your biceps are being worked. They don't need any specific work outside of that as far as improving your rowing goes. Next up, we have got ourselves the seated cable row. This is gonna go up into the good, not great category because this is it's above the variations that aren't ideal, because instead of it being a vertical pull, it is a horizontal pull, which is exactly like the rowing stroke. And with this variation specifically too, if you look at the image, getting a slight body lean and a pull and a lean back, while that's not necessarily the best for hypertrophy, as far as building strength and power goes through that dynamic motion, that's gonna strengthen your body swing and arm pull of the rowing stroke. You're gonna get even just a little bit of booty action in that with the forward lean. It's a really good exercise if you have access to a gym. Next up, we have the seated row with kind of an upright chest. I would put this in variations that aren't ideal, because unlike that one we just looked at with the forward body lean, when you're propping your chest up as tall as you can and just rowing in your arms, that's basically just strengthening the last bit of the rowing stroke, which has the least impact overall on your rowing performance. So I would say skip this variation and do the variation where you lean into it a bit more instead. With that, we have the barbell squat. Oh, I guess that's up there with the bodyweight squat. Barbell is obviously just a lot more progressible. You can get infinitely strong with your squat. And if you have access to a barbell or dumbbell, some way of physically loading up the squat with external weight and resistance, it's only gonna make you stronger at rowing. Not necessarily better endurance, but definitely better strength with your rowing. Next up, we've got the bodyweight lunge. I guess we have the dumbbell lunge and the bodyweight lunge. I mean, they're both kind of in the same category. Lunges are good. They're good to do. They're not great because I think squats are better, but lunges are still good. And next up, we have tricep extensions overhead. I know the image is cut off, but that's where you take the weight above your head and extend it up and down just like this. That's a don't bother exercise, in my opinion. There's no need to focus specifically on strengthening arm extension when it comes to improving your rowing. You're gonna be getting strength from that by doing another exercise like push-ups or chest presses instead. And again, keep in mind, everything here is in the context of getting better at rowing. So next up, we've got pull-ups. These are a do these exercise for sure. You get much more core activation with pull-ups. There's a lot more involved, a much more bang for your buck exercise compared to like a lat pull-down machine or even a seated row. Pull-ups are such a great back and arm strength builder, and it will help complement your rowing overall. Next up, we have the hack squat exercise. Oh, this is also the last exercise on the list. There's also a little concept 2 over here. I don't know why that's on there, but just to remind you to get rowing. For the hack squat exercise, I would say that this is a variation that's not great. It's gonna help you with your, actually, you know what? I'm gonna move this up. You know what? I'm gonna switch this into the good, not great, and I'm gonna move the leg press down into variations that aren't ideal. And I remember why I wanted to do this is because with the hack squat, you can get much lower into the squat, which simulates more of how much leg bend you get when you take a fully compressed rowing stroke compared to the leg press, which you can usually only bend your legs to about 90 degrees or a little bit past that. Hack squat allows you to get a lot deeper, so it's a much stronger quadricep builder, and again, infinitely scalable as far as strength goes. So this is my tier list for exercises. I kind of just hopped on here and just told you what I was thinking as we went through it. I'm just giving you my thoughts as I went along. I would love to hear your thoughts on these exercises and what exercises I missed. I'd be happy to cover those later. But that is what I would consider the tier list for rowing exercises. Let me know your thoughts. I have lots of rowing resources on my website, trainingtall.net, and my follow-along rowing workout app, Just Row. It's all linked down in the description if you're looking for more resources from me. And I can review your rowing form too, so just let me know. With that being said though, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more fun stuff, and I'll see you in the next video.